Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Wrestle Watch. This week's edition is entitled "Even More WWE Releases." How'd that even happen? I thought WrestleMania was only once a year. You know, it's me, Ryan here, and Doug over there. How you doing, Doug?
Got my coffee. That's the important thing, and I see
Mm.
you do as well.
Yes, yes, I have my coffee in my Anthropocene reviewed mug. It is an essay by John Green on a mug um, about
I'm
coffee.
I mean that's very appropriate, I suppose. They should put essays on everything for everything.
Ooh,
I,
that's a hot take, I guess.
yes, I think so.
That's a lot of reading though.
I mean, don't I feel like in Japan they have a lot of that. Like I go to like the Japanese market and
Uh-huh.
then like you have like some item and then they have like a long stanza that kind of describes the product somewhere on it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a common thing. But anyway, we're here because we need to talk about the world of contracts in professional wrestling. That is what this is, a podcast that focuses on the I guess the labor aspects of wrestling, and we talk about people jumping from different promotions. That is our niche, that is our focus, and it's been a pretty crazy month for that, as you already alluded to.
Yeah, yeah. So we already talked about before a bunch of cuts that happened from WWE that we're waiting around to see when those people will actually have their freedom from their contracts. Um
Yes.
but it was only a week after that that we heard of four other names that got cut by WWE or contracts ended. At first, we weren't sure exactly what was going on because two of the names were Jeff Cobb and Tanga Loa, or as they were known in WWE, JC Mateo and Tanga Loa. So at first, we were thinking to ourselves, well, it sounds like this might be just like they only had a year-long contract, right? And then, of course, we saw the New Day. Uh, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods get cut. And that's when things got interesting because they just signed a new contract last year with WWE, a 5-year deal with WWE in 2025. It's supposed to run till 2030. And then all of a sudden they're released. What came out was that WWE offered talent a 50% pay cut if they made over $2 million a year. So they would still make over $1 million, but they would have their pay reduced by 50% to stay with the promotion. The New Day balked at that, and WWE said, "Okay, how about we negotiate your release then?" Um, we're still waiting for word if that was the case with Tonga Loa and Jeff Cobb, but that's kind of the presumption is that they were also asked to do a pay cut. I don't presume that either of them were making over $1 million a year, but you know, um, they it seems like that they're likely the same kind of situation because I would doubt that either of them would have made the move to the U.S. for 1 year. Um, your thoughts as you move about your house?
Yes. Sorry, I have to move about my house. So here's my thoughts. When I think about the New Day, obviously, this is a group that's been around for a long time. They're very, very easily were making in excess of 2 million, as you said. I'm not surprised that they turned it down because they had already previously teased things with the elite and things like that, and they don't need that money necessarily. I mean, they can make more elsewhere, I should say. Um, Jeff Cobb and Tongalo, and I'll be honest, until you said this just right now, I did not realize they changed the spelling of his name.
Yeah, they changed it to be just like Tamatonga, so like the country Tonga, rather than Tanga Loa, and so it was Tamatonga, Tonga Loa, and Tala Tonga. They're all Tonga, but different. They expected the audience to be dumb. Essentially, what it was.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like didn't even occur to me until now. But I think what we're going to see here is a situation where across the industry, more and more of the top level guys that are uh, getting paid well, that is going to shrink. And I think we're seeing WWE is shrinking that because they're now saying they had a list of people who are getting paid a significant amount of money that they consider top guys. And now they're reducing what that is. So you have They don't consider the New Day tippy top guys. They allegedly perhaps don't consider Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, these people tippy top guys, because these are people that people are speculating on may have also taken a pay cut. We don't know if that's true. That hasn't come out yet, but because of that, um, that and that makes sense for TKO in the sense that they only need like a handful of top stars to build around. Everyone else could just be replaceable. So I'm not surprised by this at all.
Yeah, it appears that a lot of the releases are those who have been asked to restructure their contracts to take less pay because they were paid a lot in their last offer, and most of the names that we're speculating on may have taken the 50% cut are coming from speculation that they're people that WWE did not think would gain interest from AEW, or even at a 50% reduced salary, AEW might, balk at what their salary would be. And also, we're looking at a time frame of the past like 2 years of talent, people that are towards the top of the card, but not necessarily at the top of the card. So some of the names that have been speculated could have been taking these 50% cuts include like Sheamus or Finn Balor. Um, Penta was a name that was brought up because he was somebody that was mostly pushed. Kevin Owens is somebody else that hasn't been featured because he's injured, but it hasn't stopped TKO from releasing injured people like Santos Escobar in this run of things. I mean, Becky Lynch was re-signed within the last 2 years as well, so it's possible that somebody as high as her could have been it. Alexa Bliss is another name that people have speculated that could have taken. She was signed back only a year ago, right before the Royal Rumble. That could have been also asked to take a pay cut. My view on all this, as I bring my mic a little bit closer to myself so people hear me a little bit nicer, um, is that I understand why TKO is doing it. It's because they're I mean, my reasoning why I think is because I think they're trying to clear the books of some money to make themselves look attractive for a possible purchase. That's what I think is going on because the way that they're acting, it feels like that. Um, but I I just don't think that it's great as a business to sign a contract with labor and then only a year or two after ask the person, hey, can you take a 50% pay cut because we're making record profits and our CEO wants to double his pay, so you're gonna have to take a pay cut.
Yeah. Well, it's also could be them preparing for an option, a reality that they may not have as much Saudi money this year
Yeah,
because they may not be able to go over there like as much as they want. That's a possibility. And but it's funny because I feel like we're gonna we're gonna pat ourselves on the back here. We're ahead of the curve on this. I mean, I don't know how long we've been hammering this idea that how important leverage is to talent, and specifically being able to go to AEW or risk or threaten going to AEW, and how much that matters,
yeah,
because it does. And you're going to say it doesn't, but it absolutely does. And these reports that we've also heard today or this week about WWE, and we'll get into it later, but WWE potentially telling their talent and sending talent notes that, hey, AEW is not going to get another TV deal. And hey, AEW is going to have this problem. By doing that, they're trying to plant seeds of doubt for their talent to want to go there. And the reason they're doing it because they know that that's the biggest leverage that talent have is the AEW's existence.
yeah.
So by discrediting them, they can pay their talent less, because that's the other thing to keep in mind. It's like they would be paying all of their talent a lot less money if AEW didn't exist.
Yeah, they would. And when we looked at the kinds of people that supposedly they were asking to take a pay cut, again, it's people that they think that AEW would not be interested in, or people that they were not afraid of them saying, "Hey, I'm gonna leave because AEW will just pay me enough money, commiserately to
Mhm.
what you're now offering me." So, like for example, the New Day, we can presume that from what the reporting is that they were being offered to make just over $1 million by WWE when they formerly were making at least 2 million a
Mhm.
piece. I think that it's when I think about the what's been described as the pay curve for WWE and AEW, the way it's been described is WWE is kind of K-shaped, where it's like you have some people that are making a lot of money at the top. It's very few people, but there is a group of people that are making far more money in WWE than they would at AEW. And then you have the majority of people are down, not making a lot of money. They're making like the minimums. When you get into that center portion, you become a cut risk for WWE because you're not making enough that like we're making money off of you, and you're making too much for us that we can just replace you with somebody else because you're all expendable, right? AEW's is kind of just like it's kind of like more of a U going upward. Um, because it's supposedly a lot more people are making more than $1 million in AEW, but nobody's making like Roman Reigns money in AEW. Nobody's making like 10 million plus allegedly. Allegedly, it's more in the like Okada and people like that are making like around like $3 million range,
Mhm.
which is what was speculated Kevin Owens' new contract was around. So that's kind of like where we're looking at for like what the levels are of the talent contracts. I think the New Day is somebody that, yeah, you could pay them, $1 million, just to get them on the books and do all your fun stuff with them with the elite and everything like that. But also I think that you could pay them AW could pay them less than that, and the New Day could look at it as like an opportunity to do outside projects again. So that's probably where they're coming from is, well, we could take a pay cut from you guys and then just be, shelved essentially and not be able to do any outside things that we like doing anymore. Or we can, reclaim our old names, go do our business contracts that we're doing with other people like Austin Creed does with all of its video game stuff and have more fun doing it because we're at the end of our careers anyway. So I can see then where it comes to somebody that might not have such leverage anymore, somebody that just came through a free agency period, um, that, they're looking at this and saying, wait a second, I've already kind of turned down AEW once on their contract. If I go back to them with this 50% offer that you guys have, they're not going to offer me anymore, and I don't have outside deal potential like the New Day does.
Mhm. Yeah, someone and there once again, I'm not saying this is a person who did this cut, but some people were for a little while speculating it could be some like LA Knight.
Yeah.
And he's someone that I absolutely could see like taking a pay cut. And not and if granted, not and he's someone I really wouldn't blame for doing it because I don't know that he would have a whole lot of options to make the kind of money that he's making in WWE elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I understand why TKO is maybe looking at people like that and saying, like, hey, here's where we could save some money. Um, but I do, and from a business perspective, I'm not necessarily blaming TKO for doing that. However, I think there is going to be some long-term ramifications because you are sending a message to the rest of your roster uh, that this could be your future. And I think that's one of their little propaganda system has been one of the big things that is very uh powerful. Sorry, I got a beeping in the background. Apologize for that. But that's one of the things that's been keeping the system in place in WWE is they have this uh idea that WWE is the end all be all for a lot of people. This is where you want to be. This is how they were able to pull away people like Mariah May. This is how honestly, it's how they're able to keep people like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who've always been like, always felt that WWE is all they ever really wanted to do, especially Kevin Owens. This is how they were able to get, um, I guess, significant amount of their roster pulled
Or,
from AEW.
or somebody like Jordan Grace, even too, for that
Yep.
matter, a Julia.
Yeah. Obviously, Malachi Black is the big one
Yeah.
that
So
we had already talked about him in an extent, but they really are at risk of damaging that perception, especially as time goes on, when more and more of today's current wrestlers grew up watching both promotions. You know, we're getting to the point now where we're going to be very close to AEW being around a decade. All
we
right.
yeah, and I think also for that matter though, it's also that there is a if there was somebody that grew up on, let's like look at like a Will Ospreay example. Okay. So Will Ospreay famously says that the match that got him into wrestling was
I don't know the answer, but I'm going to guess that it's something in TNA.
it was a TNA triple threat
Yeah.
with Samoa Joe and Christopher
Sure.
Daniels and
AJ Styles.
AJ Styles. Yeah. So that's not surprising when you look at his in-ring style, you know.
No.
And then you track that of like, okay, so where can I do that style of wrestling? If he is thinking to himself like, this is my dream, is to do that. That dream is not going to WrestleMania. That dream is doing studio shows and working with the best talent in the world and being given time to do crazy things, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so now there is a viable pathway for you to wrestle that kind of thing and make money doing it. So you don't have to necessarily grow up on AEW per se. You could grow up on New Japan or on classic TNA or classic Ring of Honor and say, well, yeah, that's my dream. My dream is to do those things, not to, go and be a sports entertainer, doing the Tonight Show and having Slim Jims and making moments, like there are people I think already who have grown up without the dream of doing WrestleMania. Whereas I think like if you were somebody that grew up in the 90s, for example, or early 2000s, your dream is definitely WrestleMania because it's like, well, you grew up watching WWF and WCW, and they were kind of like two sides of the same coin at a point with how their main event scene was going. And yeah, so it's like, I understand that now we're getting that transition of talent already. It's not even like AEW has to be 10 years old for that to happen, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um
No, it's not. And Will Ospreay, once again, Will Ospreay is a perfect example of what I'm talking about because, in the UK, TNA actually had a pretty large following during his time growing up.
yeah.
And and then eventually, people aren't going to necessarily feel the same way about WWE when they always just live in a world where there's two of them.
Yeah.
And you're right. Maybe it's not gonna. It doesn't even need to wait 10 years. It's already happening. But I think as time goes on, you know, it's going to be working against WWE, and that's maybe why they're trying so hard to mitigate that now as much as possible.
Yeah, so just some comments that we have from chat. Letting the New Day walk is crazy to me because, like, when they're cooking, they're a merch selling machine. Not to mention up, up, down, down. Yeah, they have a lot of outside opportunities that they don't need the guaranteed money as much as other people do. Um, comment saying, I think Danielson said the split between talent and company is close to 50-50. That's regarding revenue.
In
Yeah,
AEW,
for
in
AEW.
AEW, yeah.
Yeah, so AEW's revenue split is much closer to 50-50, which is what most sports leagues are, but sports leagues ones are negotiated as part of union
CBA.
contracts,
Yeah.
CBAs. Whereas AEW's is that's just how Tony Khan is doing it. Like he's looking at it like a sports team. This is a comparison that I heard recently was most sports teams are not making crazy profits, but they're making a lot of money and putting the revenue directly back into the sports team, right?
Right.
And expensing, plenty of things for their owner, sure, but like it's not like they're just like racking up all these humongous profits that then people are like taking dividends out that are the part of the ownership team. That's not usually what the sports team model is, and that's kind of the way that AEW is being run. Is like we wanted to make a profit, yes, but That's what Tony Khan said, is that he wants it to make a profit, but he's not saying that he needs it to make an exorbitant profit to give money back to shareholders. Whereas WWE, I believe, is closer to like an 85-15 split, if I recall, which is
That's
very
yeah,
low.
yeah, and they considered that high. They
Um,
wanted it lower.
yes, and the last comment that I wanted to get in here is it's worth noting that AEW is becoming more selective about who they take from WWE. The days of just taking people like Miro or Malachi Black, sight unseen, is long gone. Yeah, that's been something that we've been kind of chatting about when we've been looking at the free agency tracker, which I might as well flop up on the screen here for a moment so people can at home can see where it stands and get an idea of where we're failing on people. I mean, up at the top of the free agency tracker, it's there are a lot of people up at the top right now of the free agency tracker, but it's not as many people that just came out of WWE as I feel like we had in the past. I think that those days are kind of over of WWE talent immediately being like, oh, well, this person's just going to go to AEW. I think that that's not the case. The only people
Mhm.
that really feel like that are Motor City Machine Guns in the New Day, possibly Kyrie Sane, possibly Santos Escobar. Everybody else is kind of like, I mean, like, maybe AEW will throw a bone and try them out. It's like very much so like it's like the feeling is a wait and see and try it out rather than
Mhm.
a oh yeah, they're just gonna end up in AEW.
Yeah, even like Danny Luna, like people thought she was gonna end up in AEW, and that probably isn't gonna happen. Is at least if she does, it'll just be like a random ROH match.
Yeah, it feels far more likely to me right now, just reading how her bookings are going, for her to have a good time on the UK Indies and do dates with Maple Leaf Pro and possibly Major League Wrestling, rather than going to AEW. It seems like that their Major League Wrestling is making a bunch of talent signings recently, in a way, and it seems that they're ramping up for a TV taping, so they might have some sort of TV deal that they're ramping up for.
It's yeah, and then and I'll say this just to kind of go back. Um, one of the things that I think when we talk about like, sports leagues and profits, you know, another aspect of it is right now, you have a lot of billionaires who are doing this thing where they're just kind of like taking loans against like their equity and living off that rather than paying taxes on it. So in situations like that, especially now with, this is me, just I'm no finance guy. I'm not like, don't take financial advice from me, people. But um
Do not aggregate for financial advice.
yes, no. But, it's also a situation where AEW itself doesn't even necessarily need to generate revenue or money out as long as it's like increasing its overall perceived value to the market. Because then, if they really need to, they could just take loans off it and just live off it like people do, which unfortunately is, the reality of the everything right now. But what we have in right now, just overall, all these different things. And you talked about some of these names that are potentially at the top and how they're not really looking like AEW might pick them up. Even going the other way. I mean, it's weird because there's not a whole lot I see from AEW to WWE right now. At the top, there might be. I'm just looking at the list, see if there's anyone really like all. You have to go all the way down to toss up, where you start saying, and then it's going to be people like Britt Baker or Anna Jay, who's impossible. And obviously, Jack Perry was kind of discussed a bit lately. And it's like, that's it. So it's
Yeah.
like, we're kind of at this point where both sides are kind of solidifying. I think less people are really, champing at the bit to get over to WWE right now in the last couple months. I'm sure that'll change. Once people have short memories, and then they'll forget that happened, and then they'll have their well, that wouldn't happen to me moment.
Yeah.
But it seems like for a variety of reasons, things are kind of solidified.
Yeah, I think that that is the case with that. And as you kind of were alluding to a little bit about the big conglomerates and how they're moving their money around and everything like that, how about we talk about some propaganda that we've
Yes.
had related to that? So for a couple weeks now, there's been a a guy that has a one-way Twitter beef with Tony Khan, who used to be, I think used to be, he might not actually be anymore, a entertainment agent.
He's
Uh,
an entertainment agent. He's just an unemployed entertainment agent,
yeah,
apparently.
yeah. Nicola Piccolo, is his name. And maybe if we say his name, he'll appear. On some kind of rant of his own. But he's been trying to make allusions that allegedly, AEW's media rights are that WBD told AEW that they're not going to renew them and told them that they're going to cancel them and all these other things. And people are like, that doesn't make any sense, really. Uh, there's also been some accounts on social media trying to push some narrative about with the Paramount acquisition, how AW's rights are going to work, because don't they have a deal with UFC, and why would they want to work with AEW then? And well, it was reported in the Wrestling Observer this week by Dave Meltzer that he has a source in WWE that is saying that within WWE, they're making an effort to try to spread these rumors that AEW will not have a media rights deal next time because Paramount won't renew them, and that the highest upper echelon within WWE are all acting like that this is definitely going to be the case, and kind of like lying to themselves a little bit is kind of the way that it sounded like it was phrased. This, of course, sounds very familiar to a few years ago when AEW's media rights were up last time, around the same time that Raw's were, and then there was this weird rumor going around that Raw was going to go to TNT and AEW was going to get canceled, and wrestling was over for AEW. AEW dead. Now we're finding out that it's being astroturfed by WWE currently. These things, and Dave Meltzer goes in depth a little bit more about this, saying how it wouldn't make financial sense necessarily for Paramount to cancel AEW or to not pursue AEW, because it costs like a tenth of the contract for UFC, but the TV that they get from it gets the same viewership that UFC gets when they have a TV taping for UFC. And then there's also the pay-per-view model on top of it, where AEW's pay-per-view model gives HBO Max the place of preeminence for their pay-per-views for people to go and purchase the pay-per-view. They get a split of the pay-per-view buys for that. Mm-hmm. And the pay-per-view is probably in the combat sports world, it is the number one pay-per-view currently that is actually being sold to consumers, direct to consumer. All the other ones, like UFC, for example, are part of a subscription package that you don't necessarily get additional money for people doing. And so the argument essentially is coming down to, it's either Paramount doesn't like AEW because politics, and there's a belief within WWE's higher echelons that they're friends with the White House together. And connect the dots as you will for that. Or the other one is Paramount is gun shy now because of the UFC deal and doesn't want to continue with another combat sports thing, even though they will own a stake in this other promotion when they purchase promotion, essentially. So what are your thoughts on all of that? Now that I laid the groundwork.
Yeah, so a couple things. First of all, I think especially this stuff related to connections to the White House. I think that people greatly overestimate how much the people in Paramount care about AEW, first of all, and the politics surrounding it. In that regard, I think they see it as a line item. I think they see it as a just a piece of content. And as you laid out, it's a pretty a good value content that they're getting for what it costs. Um, and on top of that, I think that AEW's pay-per-view model has really gone a long way to kind of push it as a premium product. And I don't think AEW has necessarily done enough to really hammer that home because I think that's something that they should do because they are a wrestling product that costs significantly more than WWE's product for pay-per-views. Maybe less now because it's part of, that ESPN deal costs like $30 a month. But, you're getting a whole bunch more with this. People are paying $50 a month to watch one show only. And that's really hammers home this idea that AEW is a a product for a premium product in the same way that something like I can't even really think of like a really strong example of it, like anything like that.
I can. It's essentially that what you have is that WWE's model right now, if you are from the position of the distributor, is that we're going to include your pay-per-view within our subscription service, and we're hoping that we're going to see additional subscribers due to it. We're not going to actually make direct money additionally from your thing. AEW's model is we're going to offer it as an add-on, so we're going to take a cut additional, and we're going to see actual revenue from taking this. It makes me think of video game DLC models.
Okay.
So like in particular, something like a strategy game, like a Paradox game, or Civilization or something like that, where it's like, okay, we're going to do a DLC every few months, and it's going to be like 10 or $20, and our player base are going to buy it every time. So they've already bought the base game, but for some reason they keep coming back to pay more to add content on top of their thing that they're already paid for. So that's what it makes me think of, because it's like, every month these people just, open up their wallets and are like, well, I need the next DLC, I need the next pay-per-view. I could just, get the thing that I already got a subscription. Like I have an Xbox Game Pass, I could just take whatever games that's on the Xbox Game Pass and, say, that's good enough. Or I could go and find this particular game, pay extra every few months for more content from that particular game. And I think that that's kind of like what the two business models are.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess I was just struggling to even think of something like that in today's media market because it's like I was thinking, is there like a sports league that is considered more of like a premium product that people would pay more for? And I don't think that exists because everything is just on like there's no like golf pay-per-views.
No,
So
no,
it's
but I think that like if the NFL put, like, I mean, this is actually a legal thing right now. The NFL is possibly going to have a lawsuit against them levied by the federal government because of how many games that they're putting onto streaming and having a paywall essentially for it, despite the fact that they have an antitrust exemption. So I think that if the NFL had done a pay-per-view model for the Super Bowl, they would make a lot of money.
yeah. Uh but it's weird because this is kind of what we see right now with these media companies where they're like spending so much money that it's impossible to make a profit on it.
Yeah.
Like if the Super Bowl was put behind a paywall, I mean, and they found like the optimum price point for it, like I still feel like whatever these media companies are paying to air the Super Bowl is like way, way more.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, but yeah, so I think that it's very interesting to see where it heads with all of that with those meteorites. Was there anything else you wanted to chat on that topic?
I think we're good. I think we hit on that.
The other thing this week is MLW announced some a new partnership that they are now have an official partnership with Stardom. Saya Kamatani and Rina will be coming over to do a show with MLW in June, which is also the same time that they just announced a Global Wars X CMLO X Stardom show. Oddly enough,
Mm-hmm.
makes you think. Anyway, uh, what do you? They released an image as part of this announcement that it was kind of like a Thanos, Infinity Gauntlet situation where they have, MLW and CMLL and New Japan spotlights, and then they have Stardoms, and they have three other places or partnerships that they're announcing soon. I think that it's possible that they're being added into the framework of what is essentially the AEW Alliance system.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any thoughts about MLW and how they seem to be signing more talent and doing a filming coming up?
So I will say this, just about the partnership. I think it makes a lot of sense for MLW to get kind of brought into the I don't even know what to call this, like uh group of promotions, obviously the CMLL, AEW, New Japan, Stardom conglomeration of promotions. It's essentially like the carryover of what existed before AEW even existed, which was that Ring of Honor CMLL New Japan partnership that also would bring Stardom in occasionally. Like at the MSG show, for example. Uh, but it's interesting because when you look at this partnership, it's especially the Stardom MLW one. It makes a lot of sense. And it also makes a lot of sense in the aspect when you're looking at the Owen announcement, obviously, which we haven't talked about yet, which is where they announced that Hazuki's going to be in the Owen and who's a Stardom talent. But also you also have Sari and Persephone. Um, but you and Hazuki, once again, Hazuki is a pushed act in Stardom, but not like majorly pushed. You know what I mean? She's a upper mid card, I think, is what I would kind of characterize her as. She's a talent who can lose.
Yeah,
But then you look at MLW, and they're bringing over, some heavy hitters. They're bringing over Saya Kamatani for one thing, right?
yeah,
Um, when you look at that, that to me shows that maybe the Bushiroad organization is being very protective of Stardom in the sense that they are not going to send Watch, I say this now, and then a week she's going to get announced for Forbidden Door, but they're not bringing Saya Kamatani into AEW. They're not bringing top talent into AEW, and I think the reason why is because they saw what I mean. Listen, we saw years and years of Forbidden Door where it was very clear that AEW kind of got the better of that deal, and a lot of their talent, a lot of cases just didn't look good going to Forbidden. I mean, I'll be honest, New Japan talent a lot of times just felt like little brother in whenever they were in AEW, and I don't think it did New Japan any good. Now, it's been very different with CMLL, obviously. With CMLL, talent has been presented very, very strongly. And if a talent, comes to AEW and loses, a lot of times the AEW talent will go to CMLL and lose. Obviously, MJF and Mystico was a perfect example of that. So I think what we're seeing here though is that Bushiroads understands what they have with Stardom, and clearly they do. We just saw the report that Bushiroad has seen some record profits and recent record profits, and I think a lot of it's being contributed to Stardom's growth. And I think they don't want to make sure that that perception of Stardom is not damaged. And they sending the talent to MLW, they're going to be the big brother, and
yeah.
MLW is going to be the little brother.
Yeah, I think that part right there is the biggest key. Also, I think that so with CMLO, I might get flamed for this, but wins and losses don't matter.
Titles don't typically matter too much either in CMLL.
Like it's about it's a vibes based promotional strategy, right? It's a
Yes.
vibes based booking. It is like, you know, why? I mean, Mystico doesn't lose singles matches. Correct. Does Mystical lose tag matches? Yes. Do their belts seem to really matter? Not really. You know, they could have a non-title match and have the champion lose, and then the person doesn't even get a second shot, you know, at the title or anything like that. Like, it doesn't matter as much. It's about like the performance in CMLL, and like the good guys triumphing ultimately is very much so like part of that too. It's a lot more vibes. I think that the storytelling model in Japan is far closer to the American storytelling model than the Mexican storytelling model is to America.
Yeah.
Mexico is much more like long term and about like you know, I guess like about like long feuds where it's just like we've wrestled each other a lot, you know, and we're putting on great matches and having fun. Whereas it feels like that the Japanese model is far closer to the American model, where a feud is constructed, like there's a constructed program. And so in that way, if they're gonna send Saya Kamatani to America, they want her to look strong, so that when she goes back to Japan, or when people from Japan see that clip, they're gonna say, "Oh yeah, she is still strong and still a top star." Right?
Mm-hmm.
You can send Mascara Dorada up to the U.S. in a singles match and say, you know, you can lose a singles match. It's fine, because he's tag champ. It doesn't matter if he loses a singles match. He loses singles matches all the time. Like, it's fine. He's one of our biggest draws, but he can lose. It's great, you know. So yeah, that's where I think that like your point about like that MLW is kind of like the little bro in the dynamic, it is true, because I think that MLW doesn't care as much if their own talent loses, because they know that part of their draw right now is bringing in outside talent. You know, like they have Kushida come in, they have the CMLL guys come in, they have some of the TJPW people come in.
Yeah,
You know,
Shoko's there.
Shoko's there, yeah. So like they know that like their draw is, you know, it's a combination of, we have foreign talent coming in and like having some matches, and we bring in people that you might have hadn't seen in TNA or WWE previously, and give them some nice paydays and storytelling opportunities. That's kind of like MLW's model.
Yeah, MLW is very much a showcase promotion in
Yeah.
a lot of ways, where, you know, no one really paying attention to the stories of CMLL. I mean, sorry, of MLW really. I mean, I've been, I don't know if you've been to MLW shows. I have. I've been to a few, and every single time I've gone, and it kind of ties in with everyone else and why they go, is because there is a perception that you're going to see some big stars. And usually when I would go, it's because there was like one person on the show that was booked that to me just felt like, oh my God, when am I ever going to see this person?
Yeah.
And like recently, a lot of times it's been like
some lucha talent, because obviously they have the strong lucha connections in MLW.
Yeah,
And
they
I
work with
think that,
CMLL, yeah.
yeah, but then, and I think your point is right, that we're going to see the Stardom talent push really well, because let's be honest, Hazuki's not going to be doing, she's not going to win a lot of matches in AEW, because Hazuki goes to CML. She just lost the CMLL,
Well, yeah,
what that women's title she had.
yeah,
So
like that's like where I think Suzuki lands on their roster right now, is that she's somebody that they see as an upper mid carder, but definitely a mid carder. She's not
yeah,
winning the world title in Stardom anytime soon, right?
right,
But they feel good enough about her, and she feels confident about herself also, to go and do international shows. She
right.
had she was, you know, being featured on the Strong shows for a while. She gets sent to CMLL. Like they feel confident about her being a showcase of Stardom internationally. And she has good, you know, people that like internationally like her, like Mercedes Monet, for example. So she can get those bookings. That brings me a little bit to what the Owen bracket is, because I think that that is interesting from a standpoint of the free agency stuff that we've been talking about in these partnerships. Not the men's bracket, but the women's bracket, because the men's bracket is just chalk, and we know exactly what's going to happen. The women's bracket, though, oh baby, that is what you said about MLW. Essentially, it is like you're going to see a big star randomly. And yeah, like it is a dual contract person, Persephone, versus an outside talent, Hazuki, as part of the AEW Owen Cup. I think that I think Hazuki is also the Spark Joshi champion right now. So it's
she is.
Yeah,
she absolutely is.
So it's the CMLL champion versus the Spark Joshi champion.
So, and here's the thing. Obviously, I think Persephone's winning that match.
Yeah, because she has a dual contract, but it's like,
Yeah. But having said that, this is also a tournament that's going to have the finals on Forbidden Door.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that they're gonna have,
maybe,
I would imagine, some outsider in that final.
Maybe, yeah, because the other side has our favorite resident of our free agency tracker, Sari, on it. That was essentially when on commentary. I don't know if you watched Dynamite this past Wednesday. But
I did.
On commentary after they revealed the bracket, they're like, "Oh, the independent star Sari. Oh yeah, she's been working in Stardom. Oh wow!" And then like they that was like the one person they mentioned when the graphic was on really in depth. And then they go back to mention her again on commentary, like without the graphic up. They were like, "Oh wow, we have Sari coming in." I was like, "Yeah, it is kind of a major deal that you booked her." Like, and it's very obvious what's gonna happen here. Like I saw some people that they were like, "Oh yeah, like I guess Sky Blue's gonna win against her." I was like, "Sky Blue's not winning that match."
She's, and I think that I think we're maybe on the same page with this. Sari is probably going to the final.
I think that she's definitely going to go up against Athena.
Yeah.
And I think that Athena retaining the ROH title actually increases the odds that Athena loses in the semifinal. Because because like really, it's like, you know, if Athena didn't have the ROH title, I'd be like, well, yeah, like she's gonna go to the final. She's probably gonna win the Owen. But if she has the ROH title, now you have a story about who beats her.
Yeah.
You know, she's only lost to Mercedes during her entire reign as a singles, and it was in the Owen last year. And then she lost to Toni Storm in a world title match. So it's very rare company for somebody to beat Athena. So it's either, I think it's going to be either her, Sari, or Willow.
Yeah, and Willow already won the Owen.
Yeah.
So I kind of don't think that they're going in that direction. And because obviously the winner of this is going to get a world title shot.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're necessarily ready to take the belt off Tekla right now. I could be wrong, but if you're Sari, who is protected very, very heavily in her career right now. She does lose. She
knows who to lose to also.
Now, if you're Sari and they tell you, hey, you're going to win the Owen, but you're going to lose to Tekla, do you think she would take that deal?
Yeah.
I think she would too. And I think that there's a very strong possibility that happens. Now, having said that, I think that Alex Windsor winning the Owen isn't necessarily out of the realm of possibility too. They could do Sari versus Alex Windsor in the final. Would Sari lose to Alex Windsor? I think she might.
Maybe. She already beat her once, so like it would be a return.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That could be they could probably build that into the storyline. I just for some reason don't think that Willow is the direction they're going right now with this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, like I kind of I wrote about this on our server a little bit, where I think that for the AEW women's division, some people were asking, this is like kind of related to our subject here on Wrestle Watch. They were, you know, saying why are they booking all these outside talent when they have all these benched people at AEW that they could be booking? And it's like, no, actually they don't. Like, when you look at the rest of the women's division right now, it's like, okay, cool. So we have 4 people are locked up in the world title match, right? So none of them can be in the Owen. So that's 4 people gone. You have Mercedes is just out. Probably
She's
just
writing a book apparently.
She's writing a book apparently. You have Tony Storm, who is out for roughly 9 months for some reason. Who knows? Maybe baby. We have who else is just out? Well, I mean, like Britt Baker's not coming back. Like they're not gonna. It doesn't seem like that's what they're gonna do with her. There's so many other. It's like really, it's like
that's it.
When you look at the top,
maybe Deeb, Serena Deeb, is she still there?
But like, if you're looking at people that you're like, okay, who is a potential world title match, for All In? Because you have to make it realistic, right? Who is in the Owen tournament should be people that you could realistically see in the All In world title match. That's how you should book your tournament. It's not. You do not need a Chase Owens. You have only 8 slots.
Yes.
That is how you're the men's tournament. When you look at that, it is those kinds of people, except for I would say Mark Davis is honestly the one where you're kind of like, I mean, he's the national champion, yes, but like he's not gonna be in the world title at All In. We know that. Like that's obvious. That's not gonna happen. So we have like 7 out of 8 that are like, yeah, I could see a world where Jack Perry gets that match. Sure, I could see that. I don't think it's plausible, but I think it's possible. Whereas the women's bracket, it's like Sky Blue's in it. No offense, Sky Blue, but she's not gonna be in the world title match at All In. So it's like that she's gonna lose at some point. Hazuki is gonna lose at some point. Mina is gonna lose at some point. Yes. Unfortunately for those people. So you don't really have. You needed the foreign talent, and the foreign talent you got were. You have Persephone, who's a dual contract that's CMLL's champion, beat Mercedes Moné. And then you have Sari, who is considered the best women's wrestler in the world right now, who has been really wanting to have a match with Athena for so long. And your diehards of your promotion of AEW know who she is. And when you've had her wrestle in for the ROH pre-shows, you've had the crowd behind her and cheering for her without announcing. And it was in Florida. Like, it's not like hotbed, like kind of territory necessarily.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that like when I've been thinking about this, about the chances of an outsider actually winning the Owen, I just kind of like backwards mathed it of like who's going to be the world champion for the women even going into All In, and I think the answer is actually Hikaru Shida, but because like she has the best pairing with everybody that could be the winner of the Owen. So
I think they're gonna take the belt off Tekla in the 4-way.
Yeah, I think that the hot story right now is Shida, and so I think that they're going to. I think what was supposed to happen here was that it was supposed to be Tony Storm versus Tekla, right? And Tony Storm winning the belt back. I think that Chris Statlander and Shida and Willow were supposed to have a program with each other because they were teasing that and building that already. So I think that they were going to do that originally, and now they might just move that from being a TBS feud into being a world title feud. And then
I kept getting the impression that we were getting a Tekla, like I said, a Hikaru Shida heel turn.
It's happening. It is happening it's happening as we're speaking. Yeah.
But if they're doing that, it just feels weird that they're gonna take the belt off Tekla.
No, I think it's great because like Tekla has already had her match with Statlander and her feud with Statlander, and it's like I don't know if they want to revisit it again and again and again right now. Whereas you can have Hikaru Shida versus Stat as a feud instead, so you keep Stat in the world title picture with a new heel, and it's a heel that acts like she's not a heel.
It's true. It's true.
So it's fun.
And let's be honest, Hikaru Shida versus Sari is a really interesting match.
That was where I was going with this also, is that I think that when you look at all of the alignments of Tekla versus all these people, it's not as interesting. It's like Willow works, Athena could be, a sassy, crazy competition, essentially, between the two of them. Stat, it kind of like nobody knows what her alignment is. Jamie Hayter, it's like, it makes sense. A lot of it makes sense, and you could do like a good rivalry dream match kind of dynamic between her and Sari or her and Willow. But like Sheeta is the one where it's like you could just like have Sheeta lined up with, I think, like her versus Sari is very interesting as a match. Her versus Athena could be interesting. Her versus Willow as a program could be interesting. So that's where my mind's at. We have a comment here, though, that says Persephone winning to build her up as the next top star. That's interesting as well, because she's only, what, like 23, 24 years old?
I think she's a dark horse, but ultimately, I think, and this is what's nice about having all these different promotions and working together. Like, let's say that we get to Alex Windsor versus Persephone.
Yeah.
Like, Windsor could, like, win that, and that sets up, like, CMLL match.
Yes.
Like, in Mexico later. So it's like, they could do stuff like that. And they may even be thinking that long term. CMLL already may have that in mind, and that's maybe why they're even setting the tournament up this way.
Well, a fun thing that I did on our servers bracket for a pick'em was I listed everybody's current belt that they hold as part of the matchup. So it's like Samoa Joe versus never open weight 6-man tag champion Will Ospreay. AEW national champion Mark Davis versus Jungle Jack Perry and stuff like that. And it's like the women's side is the CMLL World Champion versus Spark Joshi Champion, the AEW TBS Champion versus the New Japan Strong Champion, the ROH Champion versus Mina, and then Sky Blue versus the. I was like, Sari doesn't actually hold any belts right now, but I wrote the 2025 Tokyo Sports Fighting Spirit Award winner and playable character in WWE 2K22, the whole damn pack DLC, Sari.
Yeah, and I will point this out too. We already had a tournament where an outsider who came out of nowhere blew through and won and got to the final, and nobody saw it coming. And that was when they had was it
Ryo Mizunami? But that was like
Ryo Mizunami.
Yeah.
And they could do that. They could do that again. I think they might do that again. I think Sari is my pick to win the tournament.
Oh wow.
I think that's my hot take.
Oh, and somebody asks, is Amanada injured at the moment? No, she just had a comeback match on the Indies, I think. So I think that's correct. I think that she either is close to coming back or is about to, but somebody can correct me if I'm misremembering that. But that would be another name that I think like yeah, she just had a match. Yeah, she was on 0 Hour for Supercard of Honor, and she had a match in Marvelous, in Kanagawa, Japan, about a week ago. So Amanada is coming back now. But like if you have it's like no offense to Amanada again, because I think that she is fantastic. She's exactly the kind of person that AEW should be building and leveling up. But if you have the potential to book the first ever Dave Meltzer 5-star for a women's TV match, you book that match. And that is Sari versus Athena. You book that match. Like,
I mean, that's happening. That match is happening.
Like, I get people that are like, oh, they've had Sky Blue rack up a few singles wins recently, or, like she's assigned talent, stuff like that. It's like, what they're doing is establishing Sky Blue in people's minds right now as not just a background actor in Triangle of Madness. So that when Sari comes in and just is the most hard-hitting person ever, that it makes the people from AEW be like, oh, wow, wait, who's this? If you don't know who Sari is, you will know who she is after that match. Like, and if Sky Blue messes up anything in the match, Sari will shoot. And will look fantastic while doing it. Let me look at some comments here that we have. The men's bracket is okay, let's do storylines. The women's bracket is let's do some cool poop. That feels like accurate. Amanada was on the Supercard pre-show, and then Feels also says if Sari wins, it tells me she's signed. That's another interesting factor in this
I
that
disagree.
brings it back to the Wrestle Watch. But why do you disagree?
I disagree. I think that they absolutely would have Sari win, and then lose to the world champion, because I think that right now, so first of all, I think Tony Khan is starting to get the idea that, just doing unpredictable things kind of brings some buzz to the promotion, and Suri has a ton of buzz, and bringing Suri in to lose to your world champion, that in of itself is pretty cool. I think Suri would be down to win the Owen
Yeah.
and go all the way in the tournament and then eventually lose the title match. I think she'd be down with that. I think there's absolutely a scenario where she is not signed and agrees to that scenario.
Yeah, and I would say, like, as we were kind of alluding to when you were saying, like, oh yeah, she could lose to Tekla. I think, like, anybody in that 4-way plus Mercedes could be world champion walking into All In, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I can see a scenario where Suri is like, yeah, I'd lose to Jamie Hayter. I haven't wrestled Jamie, and she's like, Stardom royalty. Like, I would love to do that. And Stardom probably was like, oh yeah, you can
in the Owen. In Wembley.
In Wembley. Yeah, and it's like, also part of this is why I think also, I think Suri has a very strong relationship with Stardom, and I think that this is proof of it is that, AEW got Stardom to allow them to book Hazuki for the tournament. Right, so there is a shot, there is a shoot chance that, like, if everybody gets injured, you're gonna have Hazuki versus Suri in the final, right?
Yeah,
and Stardom's cool with that possibly happening. Stardom's cool with Mina wrestling against their signed talent, possibly. That's somebody that used to work for Stardom. They're happy to have Suri work with AEW, and Suri is working with AEW. It's like, I think that. It's not necessarily saying Suri is signed with any of these people, but I'm saying that she has a solid relationship with these promotions.
Yeah.
And I think that that's pretty important to point out. And I don't think that necessarily says that she is signing or is signed to AEW or Stardom for that matter. But I think that it says a lot about the strength of those relationships that she's built with Stardom, that this is happening.
I also think that maybe it also speaks to how some of the other promotions in Japan are doing. Like, I'll be honest, Marigold has been, they're not looking great right now.
No. And this comment we just had from Day Park 14 in the chat is, I think Suri likes being a freelancer. She basically wrestles for every Joshi company, including Stardom and Marigold. Something to point out, of course, with that is that she has said that she is going to do some neck training or like have like a treatment done for her neck, and will be out for the next month, and she canceled some bookings. I think there was one for like Marvelous, there was one for Marigold was one of them. She had some of her buddies are taking over her spots, so everybody's kind of like happy, Ira is taking one of the spots. I think that Chihiro Hashimoto is taking one of her bookings, and too. So it's like all of like the friends of Suri are banding together to take over these bookings for her. I think that it's very likely that Suri didn't cancel these because of AEW. However, I think it's definitely possible that she's thought to herself, I want to make sure that I am good to wrestle Athena, and I don't get injured in between now and then. So I'm going to look. Yeah, for her neck. Like, I'm going to look long and hard at the bookings that I have right now and say to myself, should I do this match right now? And Marigold was somebody that was below the line for her. Yeah. So I think that does say a little bit about how she's taking the bookings with Marigold. She still has a good relationship with them, enough to continue doing bookings with them. But, like, for them to be one of the matches that she's like, I could do this match, or I could rest my neck. I
believe Athena. I believe in kayfabe. She is doing Death Rider neck training.
she's up on the roof with Ospreay right now.
Yes.
Oh man, there were so many good memes that I will not mention exactly what they were saying. The Death Rider segments looked like with Ospreay, but they looked like something. Did you have any hot takes that you wanted to share, or anybody in chat? Do you have any hot takes that you want to get through? While we get to that, as we think about that, I did want to say that there was an Io Sky documentary that just premiered in Japan that formally announced that she Indeed is married to Evil, that they've been married for 3 years.
Well, good for them.
And I thought it was great because the announcement is like, it says their WWE names and then in parentheses, formerly. And it's funny because like they hand signed it at the bottom and it says Naruko, Evil, Io Sky, her Japanese name. I just thought that was very, very amusing. Their photos are very cute. It's nice. Any hot takes from you that you wanted to put into the ether and have me react to?
I don't think I have any off the top of my head right now.
Okay. Let me see if I have any here for us. Oh, here's a good one. Okay. You're gonna travel into the future with this one, okay? SummerSlam 2027. Okay? This person says they do not believe that Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Cody Rhodes, and Drew McIntyre will be in WWE.
I don't know. I kind of think maybe Drew, but part of me thinks the other ones they're just gonna stick around.
I agree. I think that's a spicy one. That one's pretty
Yes.
hot take. That's the only one that I see. Anybody in chat have one? Doesn't seem like it. Well, in that case, thank you so much for hanging out today for Wrestle Watch. It was very nice to have you back in the studio, as it were.
Absolutely. Thank you everybody for listening as usual, and we'll be back to talk about. Well, I imagine we'll probably be talking about what happens at Double or Nothing, because something will probably happen next week.
Yes.
That'll be interesting to talk about.
Something crazy will probably happen, yeah.
Yeah. Until then, I am Doug.
I'm Ryan. Oh, and I just wanted to mention also on that side of things, they have officially sold out Double or Nothing.
Yes, that's 14,000.
Yeah.
Like no seats available.
Yeah.
Good job for them.
Yeah. And I'm Ryan. I hope everybody has a great